So my name is Stein Villumstad. I'm Norwegian, not only by birth, but really Norwegian, just temporarily living here in New York, brought here by Religions for Peace. And I have a history in humanitarian development world, where I worked almost 20 years for the Norwegian organization called Norwegian Church Aid. And I worked both in Oslo, in the headquarters, but I also worked basically in the Eastern Africa countries. I worked partly with humanitarian disaster relief, but also with more advocacy-related peace, human rights-oriented work within that organization. So that brought me also logically to partners. Since we were called Norwegian Church Aid, our could say organic partners were the churches of different denominations where we worked, and they were not alone. The churches were not alone. And if you look at the map and if you know the history and a bit of the sociology of that region, there have been conflicts and there are conflicts going on, and in that respect we were also linking up with other religions, and we were trying to facilitate dialogues between the religious communities, religious leaders in different conflicts. I was brought also together with Secretary General Dr. Wendley here in Religions for Peace to Sierra Leone during that conflict and during the peace negotiations and so forth, where the religious leaders played a very significant role, both prior to leading to the first negotiations taking place, but also being part and parcel of the official negotiations. So it was a movement from a track 2 role, as they call it in these terminology, into linking up with the real official peace negotiations. Around the same time, there was a nasty war breaking out between the two neighboring countries, Ethiopia and Eritrea, on the other side of the continent, on the Horn of Africa. So again, we teamed up with Religions for Peace and worked with the religious leaders in those two countries, trying to promote a dialogue where they got together and influence both their leaders respectively to move towards peace, but also to reflect on the notions and the sentiments of the broad groups of believers in both countries. So that were two experiences that brought me closer to Religions for Peace. Now, if you look at what is happening this week, and just jumping from the Horn of Africa, I think that if you remember a bit back and the images, even today from Kenya and other places, with cows that have taken their last steps before they die due to lack of water, lack of grazing possibilities, you will see that the climate is playing such an important role in very many of the marginal areas where you have nomads, you have pastoralists trying to find grazing areas, and when that is drying up, they're invading into more agricultural areas, and there you have conflicts that are very much induced by climate changes. And therefore, if you look to the climate negotiations that are taking place in today, preliminary, preparing for Copenhagen and in Copenhagen, from our end, of course, protecting the earth as a sacred place in itself, in all religious traditions, but also this notion that climate change, as we see it now, is very much man-made, and those who have contributed least and are suffering the most are the poorest, are the most marginalized countries. So there is an injustice this. There is an injustice element to this that Religions for Peace is taking very seriously